Okay, so we are another day on from the last video. I say another day, we're actually probably a week on. I've sort of lost track of time, honestly. With family life and homeschooling and Corona and everything else that's going on, been a bit distracted. So we're going to carry on with this video now. So the plan is the VM's just starting up at the moment. You can see that just there. We're going to wait for it to boot up. I'm going to connect to another machine that's on my network here, and we're going to copy some files across. There's some installation files for a couple of programs, and then there's a couple of text documents just with some bits and bobs on. I will make the contents of the text documents available in the notes, so if you're trying to follow along at home or in your office, you can use those commands. So we're just waiting for it to finish booting, and then, like I say, we'll copy these things across. I'll just quickly go through the list of bits that we're going to do. So we're going to install just a couple of three applications, a couple of programs, just so that we've got something to actually work with. We're going to configure the power saving options, because I just personally I don't like the defaults. We're going to disable Microsoft Passport or Windows Passport. When you first log on with an Office 365 account, Windows will ask you to set up Passport. Now, personally, I don't understand why it's there. I want it disabled. There's probably a way that you can do that in Azure AD, but I just find it easier to, it's just two quick, simple PowerShell commands to run. So while you're customizing the machine, I just drop those in. We will then clear up all of the modern apps, or the Microsoft Store apps, whatever we're supposed to call those now. That's a bit of a challenge. It can be a bit of a pain in the neck. It potentially causes problems with sysprep later on if you don't do it correctly. I've got to be honest, I have run several tests through of this in the last couple of days, and it's just an absolute minefield, but fairly sure that the script that I have now does what we need it to and does it all correctly. Once we've done that, we're going to change the logon screen background and the default background wallpaper, and then we're going to fix the start menu and the taskbar layouts. So we'll crack on. The machine, as you can see, has finished booting now. Still just the one user on this system, and that's kind of important when we get to the Microsoft Store app cleanup later. If you have more than one user, it greatly adds to the complexity there. So we're going to run //192.168.1.130 setup $. It'll take a few seconds, and that's going to ask me for a username and a password. It's going to take just to the point where I think it hasn't worked, and then it's going to appear. Helps if you can type your own password, I suppose, doesn't it? Okay, so I want the contents of this folder here. As well as the programs that we're going to copy across and the couple of text files, there's also two images in here, one called background and one called IMG100. The background is going to be the background wallpaper. The IMG100 is going to be the logon screen background. I've called it IMG100 just because that's the name of the default that's in place in Windows. And I'm not particularly imaginative, so I just tend to go with just replicating what's currently there. I also have this kind of idea that it probably helps. If you're trying to overwrite a default, if you overwrite the default by using the same file names and things, it probably helps. I don't know whether it does or not really, but that's what I've done. Not really copying at a great speed across here, but I think it's the disks on the disks on the VM that are the problem. It's a gig network that we're on here, so Okay. So first job, is going to be just to install the few programs that I've got. Now, we've got Thunderbird, we've got Google Chrome, and I've got Office. I'm sure you don't need talking through how to do this. That's my doorbell. That's a collection. I'll be back in a second. Yeah, the downside of ordering everything online when in quarantine is you can't check whether something fits beforehand. So yeah, windscreen wipers for cars, apparently they're not all necessarily the same, even on the same make, model, year of car. So completely by the by. On with the installation. So Thunderbird. If you don't know Thunderbird and you are not using Gmail or Exchange or Office 365, then you should absolutely be using Thunderbird. For any IMAP mail stuff, fantastic bit of kit. Really, really like it. It's from Mozilla, so it's the same people that make Firefox, the Firefox browser. Free, open source, loads of add-ons, really extendable. Cracking bit of kit. We don't want to launch it just now, though. And having sung Mozilla's praises, I'm now going to not install their browser. I'm going to put Google Chrome on instead. Okay, that's Chrome all done. So I'm going to start the Office installer. Again, you don't really need me to talk you through how to install Office. You double click that and then leave it to it. What I would just say is that previous versions of Office and or previous versions of Windows, you've also had to rearm Office. So when you install it, it activates as part of the installation process. You then have to remove that activation using a process called rearming. It would appear that you no longer have to do that with the Office 365 installer. So what I've done is I've logged on with my Office 365 account. I've downloaded the stub installer, copied that across onto this machine as you've just seen, and I'm running it. Now, there does appear to be some information out there that says if you run any of the applications, then you'll have problems later on. I'm not 100% sure that that's necessarily the case, particularly given that Microsoft Teams will just pop up automatically all by itself. That doesn't seem to cause a problem, but rather than tempting fate, I've just not been opening any of the Office apps. There's no need to really when you're building an image, you know, not the way that we're doing it. So yes, the only thing that I would say, obviously, is your mileage may vary. If you are about to build an image and deploy it to hundreds of machines, I would suggest that you do your own QA and your own testing first. Don't trust me. I mean, I know what I'm doing, but do your own testing first. You know, I don't want people contacting me saying I followed your instructions and I rolled this out to an entire campus of machines at a school, and now I have, you know, 2,000 machines that don't work properly. Test it. Right. I'm going to cut the video in a second because this is going to take a while. Because it's got to do the download, it's got to do the install. I'll fire the video back up again when it's finished. Well, this is generally, you know, people only ever ring me when there's a problem. Honestly, it is definitely, it's one of the downsides of this job that I didn't think about when I started it. But okay, so I'm back. Office is installed, so we'll just close that installer, and we'll go back a couple of levels here. Perfect. Right, so PowerShell is the next thing that we want. So I'll start and PowerShell. I'm lazy, I couldn't be bothered to write the last 3 letters of shell. No, efficient, sorry, not lazy, efficient. Okay, so as I said, the first thing that we're going to do is going to just change the power configuration. Now, technically this is not a PowerShell command, this is just a command line, but I'm doing it in PowerShell because everything else I'm doing is PowerShell. So powercfg is the command that we want. If you do that with a /?, It'll give you all the options that you've got there. Let's just rearrange the size on that, and actually let's just increase the font a little bit as well. That might be too far. Make it a little bit bigger. So powercfg /change is the one that we want. Again, if you put a /question in there, then it will give you a list of the things that you can change. So we want monitor-timeout-ac 30. So we're changing the monitor timeout, so when the monitor turns itself off, when it's on AC, so when it's on mains power, to 30 minutes. I'm not going to change the DC options, which is the options that it uses when it's on battery. We'll leave those as they are. This is mostly just because when you try to work remotely, user rings you and says, I'm going for lunch in 15 minutes, can you drop on my machine and do something? They go for lunch. You don't want their machine to have gone into hibernate or suspended the hard drive or anything like that. So I do just change things. So next thing we're going to do is the disk timeout, again to 30, so that's 30 minutes, not seconds or nanoseconds or hours. And then the last two things are standby and hibernate. We're setting both of those to 0, which is to disable, so they never sleep and never hibernate, or never standby and hibernate, sorry. Again, I'm not entirely sure if all of those are strictly speaking required on all machines, but hopefully I'm going belt and braces there and getting everything covered. So the next item, I'm going to do some copying and pasting now. I will make these commands available in the notes. But the next one we're going for, or the next two lines, is to disable passport. So what we have here is new item -path, and then HKLM. So that's the local machine section of the registry. Software policies Microsoft, and we're making a new node in there called PassportForWork. Okay, that's completed successfully. And then we're going to make a new key. This is one of those magic Microsoft double negatives. So we're making a key that's called enabled. We're setting it to 0, so that disables. So we're disabling the enabled key, which makes it disabled. Clear. There we go. So that's done. So that's sorted out. Okay, now we're moving into the I'm going to do the lock screen next. That's not technically what I've got in my notes as the next thing to do, but I'm going to do the lock screen next. So the problem that we have with the lock screen is that most of the folders and files that we need to work with here, we don't have permission to. So the first thing that we need to do is this block of commands here. Try that copy and paste again. So takeown, and it's the ProgramData Microsoft Windows SystemData folder. So we're taking ownership of that, and then we're granting the administrators and the system group access to it, and setting the administrators group as the owner. So that's all good. That's gone through. Next thing is to, within that folder, so within the system data folder, there's a folder called S-1-5-18. No idea what that actually means, but it's there. So we're also taking ownership and then giving ourselves permission to that. And now that we have permission to it, we're going to delete it and everything that's within it. So that's the first thing. We now need to do the same thing but to files and folders in Windows web screen. So there's a load of files in there that are called IMG 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, and 105. Some of them are PNGs, some of them are JPEGs. So again, it's just the same thing. We are taking ownership of and then giving ourselves permissions to all of those. Once we have permissions on them, we're going to remove them. Once we've removed them, we're then going to copy. So this is the IMG 100, which, as I mentioned earlier, I've named IMG 100 because it's the same as the defaults that were here previously. So we're going to copy the one that I've generated over to that location. I don't know whether I mentioned this earlier, I've forgotten, but that image, it's actually quite a big image. So I can get the tooltip to fire up there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's 3,840 by 2,160. So it's a big old image. The idea is that it will look okay on a 4K screen, and because it gets centered and resized and stuff automatically, it should work on any size screen basically. The background image is exactly the same. Now the background we're just going to center, we're not going to resize that. But again, the image is designed so that it looks okay on a relatively small screen, but it also scales all the way up. So a bit of forward planning there means you don't have to have different ones for different jobs. Okay, so background wallpaper, that's the next job. So we're going to copy again the desktop.jpg into Windows web wallpaper and name it home.jpg. Oh, we're not going to do that, and the reason that we're not going to do that is because that image is called background.jpg, not desktop.jpg. Bit of a typo there, need to fix that in my notes. And then to actually apply that, now I don't know if there's a registry hack or a PowerShell command that we can run to do this. If there is, I don't know what it is. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to run gpedit.msc, so gpedit.msc, which is the local group policy editor. It's a relatively quick and simple job to do this. Now you'll notice the /Windows/wallpaper home.jpg. The reason that I use that again is I'm a little bit lazy or efficient, one or the other. So we're going to go to user configuration, administrative templates, desktop, and then desktop wallpaper. We're going to enable under wallpaper name. I'm going to copy and paste what it says here, because by coincidence that happens to be exactly what I've just named the file. So I'll put it in that location because that's listed there, and it just means that I don't have to remember what I've done. I can just copy and paste it, no mistakes, reduces the margin of error. There we have it. So close that and then close that. That's all done. Okay. Now we need to be sitting comfortably for this next bit because it's a little bit complicated. There are two different store package types that we need to worry about. So the first one is the appx package, and the second one is the appx provisioned package. So if we run get appx package, and tab autocomplete. Yeah, should be working. And we pipe that to select name. That's going to give us a big list of all of the Apex packages. Now those are the packages that are installed for the current user. Okay, we could also do a pipe that to measure, and that's going to tell us that there are 80 Apex packages for the current user. There's a switch to get Apex package, which is minus all users. Because we only have one user installed on the system, or one user created on the system, they should in theory be the same thing. So there are 80 packages there. Now, some of those packages are things that we want. So the Microsoft Store, you may or may not want, but I'd suggest leaving it there. Calculator, photo viewer, sticky notes, they're all things that actually are kind of useful. But there's also a whole load of stuff in here, you know, like Xbox speech to text overlay. We don't really want Xbox stuff on a Windows machine, on an Office machine, sorry. So there's a whole load of stuff in there that you don't want. So what we need to do is we need to work out how to get rid of that without getting rid of everything. Okay, so the way we do that is using another command, which is the where command. So we're going to do where name, and then initially we're going to do minus like, just to double check that we've got the spelling correct. But then when we actually run the command later, we're going to do where not like. So select, well, actually let's just take that off the end, and we're going to say where name like, and we can use stars in here. So if we do where it's like star, that's going to give us everything. But then what I would suggest is, you know, and do this for your own setup, work out what you think you do and don't want. There are certain things that you can't remove, it just won't let you. So that's fine. But for example, I want to keep the Microsoft Store. So I'm going to look through this list, I'm going to highlight the Microsoft Store. And then in this command I'm going to say where like Microsoft Store star. The star on the end isn't important right now, but it is later on, so just put it in now and then you're saving yourself a job later. Okay, so that is just listing the Microsoft Store. Perfect, so we know that that's correct. Do that for all of the ones that you want to keep, and you will eventually have something like this command here. So what we've got here is get Apex package minus all users, where name, and we've changed this to not like. So what this is doing, this is building a full list of all the packages. We're then filtering out the ones that we want to keep. So by the time you get to the end of this, what you have is a list of packages that you don't want. So where name not like Windows Store, where name not like calculator. So we're building this, so you've got to just think about this. We're starting off with a big list, and then we're saying not that one, not that one, not that one, not that one. We started with 80. So if we do, what you should find is then the things that you want to keep should not appear in this list now. Again, double check, better to check. But another thing that you can do there is add a measure to the end of that, and you should see whatever number you did have, which in my case was 80, minus the number of things that you want to keep, which in my instance is 4. 80 minus 4, 76. So we can be fairly certain that this is working and doing what we want to. Once you are fairly certain that it's doing what you want, oops, sorry. Remove Apex package. Now, again, there are some potential little problems here. If you have more than one user, the remove apex package will only remove it for the current user. So if you have more than one user, you have to put the minus all users in. However, the minus all users doesn't work with this command. So you're on your own a little bit if you're doing it that way around. My suggestion is only ever have the one user. If you've ended up with more than one user, delete the other users first. You don't need more than one user when you're setting a system up like this. So just the one user. We're getting packages from all users. I don't know why I'm bothering with that, but I am. But then remove apex package at the end. Run that through. It will complain because, as I say, there are some of these packages that Windows has got tagged as required, so you can't get rid of them. That's fair enough. But it will get rid of all the ones that we don't want. And we'll run the command again in a second and just see how many are left once we've run this through. There'll still be quite a few because there are quite a few that it needs. I'll just go through what we're actually going to do once this is finished. So the other type of package is the apex provisioned package. So these are the packages that are available in Windows to be installed. And when a new user logs on, those packages will be installed. So we also want to get rid of any of those that we don't want. So we're going to do a very similar thing. We're going to do a get apex provision package minus online. You have to put the minus online in there or it doesn't work properly. We can then do a pipe that to select, and this time instead of name we have to do package name because, you know, why would Microsoft name things consistently? Who knows? So get apex provision package minus online, pipe to select name. That's going to give us a list. My experience is that the ones that you want to keep will be exactly the same as the ones that you've just selected. So there's not quite so much to do. Get apex provision package minus online, pipe to select package name. There's a list of packages. Now what you will notice is that, for example, the Windows calculator, which is one of the things that I want to keep, the package name is Microsoft Windows Calculator underscore and then a version number. So that's why we put the asterisk on the end of the previous command. It was basically to make it easier to copy and paste things around. So what we're going to do, we're going to remove this from the end of here and go home. Get apex becomes provisioned package minus online. Name has to become package name, but the rest of it stays the same. So not like Microsoft Store start where package name, not like calculator star package name, not like sticky notes. You will of course notice that I didn't put the stars on the end of all of mine, so I'm just having to amend that. Package name, not like Microsoft.Windows.Photos star select package name. Let's run that one first. So again, there's your list of packages that it's going to remove. Double check that nothing that you want is in there. You know, for example, print 3D. No, print 3D. Why would anyone want print 3D? You might want print 3D. MS Paint. That's a better example. So you're still going to have the original MS Paint. This is the Microsoft Store version of MS Paint. You may find that you want that in there. You may not. So once we've done that, let's just do a pipe to measure. So there are 25 left in there. If we compare that to set package name 29. So without doing any filtering, there are 29. With our filter, there are 25. 29 minus 25 gives us 4. 4 packages is what we're trying to get rid of, so that all adds up. So we now need remove apex provisioned package minus online. That's going to go through and remove all of the provisioned packages, which again, they're the ones that are actually in Windows that will be provisioned for your user when your user logs on. So get rid of all of those. What a result. Okay, perfect. So that's finished going through. So the next bit that we're going to do is to configure the start menu and the taskbar. Now you'll see at the moment we've got a couple of things that are pinned down here. So Edge, Microsoft Store. I'm going to leave those there. But we're going to go to the start menu and I'm just going to customize this and make it look how I want it to. Okay, so just as a generic layout, Word and Excel are the things that people tend to use most in my experience. PowerPoint, if you're using Office 365, Outlook definitely up on that list. Publisher and Access, less so. And then we've pinned calculator, stickies and photos. As we didn't remove them, I figure we might as well add them in there. So that's all good. So the command that we're going to use to export the current layout, this is a brilliantly named command, is export start layout. You give it a path, that's the path where you want it to dump the layout. So I'm going to go /qct start layout.xml. It is an XML file and you can call it whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to head over to the QCT folder here, start layout, right click, open with Notepad. Now there are 2 things to do. First thing is this top line here, this defines the schemas that are actually in use in this XML file. So we currently have schemas Microsoft Start 2014, full default layout, we have start layout, we have modifications. We need to add another bit into the end of here. Again, I'm copying and pasting here. The one that we're adding is XML ns:/taskbar equals open quote http://schemas.microsoft.com/start/2014/taskbar layout. It'll be in the notes. The important thing is that we're pasting this on the very end of the first line. So we're going inside the closing tag. We're going to paste that in. And that's it. And then right down at the bottom, we're going to add an extra line in at the bottom here. And we are going to open custom taskbar. This is just a text document that I made earlier. So this has got the outline in for what you need to do. The pin list placement, this is kind of important, is replace. So anything that's currently there will be replaced by what's here. That's what I want. So we're going to copy that wholesale and paste it in again before the closing tag at the end here, and then tidy that up a little bit there. The 3 lines here, so these are the 3 buttons that are going to get pinned to the taskbar. So just to show you quickly, taskbar : desktop app, desktop application link path equals, and then in quotes you basically just put the path and file name of the shortcut that you want to appear there. So There's two different types here. So one is in the app data, which is in the local user start menu, and that's File Explorer, so Windows Explorer. Then from the system-wide start menu, which is in %ProgramData / Microsoft Windows Start Programs. We've got Google Chrome and we've got Thunderbird. So we should end up, when we log back on after restarting, we're going to end up with 3 items pinned there: File Explorer, Chrome, and Thunderbird. If you want more, add more in. If you don't want those, take them out. It's your setup. We're going to save that. We're going to close that. I'm going to close that as well. So the opposite of exporting start layout, you guessed it, import start layout. Now this is totally a little bit different, because what we need to do now is layout path is the command we've got to give it on the way in. So /qct start layout. And then we also have to give it what's called the mount path. And the mount path is specifying basically which version, which install of Windows you want this imported into. So it's the version of Windows that's installed on the C drive. Okay, and that is us about done for the customizations. Now, what I would just say is, if there's anything, if there's any additional customizations that you're sat there thinking, oh, why hasn't he done this? Why hasn't he done that? Drop me a note, chuck something in the comments. I'm always happy to, or maybe do an addendum to the video, or I could redo it and add some extra bits in. Separate video, I don't know. If there's any other bits that need to go in there, but this is fairly standard for what I want. The only thing that's missing from here at the moment that I'm really aware of is setting the default apps. And honestly, I just haven't got around to doing the research on that to work out how to do that. So I'll do that at some point and add that into my default image. Yeah, but for now, that's all the customizations. So we're going to exit out of here. We're going to close that. We're going to close that. I'm going to go back into here actually, because there is one other little thing to do. I spoke too soon. Delete all of that because we don't need it anymore. Delete all of that because we don't need it anymore. And empty that guy. Perfect. So I'm going to shut down this machine. I'm going to snapshot the machine. Obviously, snapshotting is important. We want to make sure that we've got copies of everything. And then once we've snapshotted it, I will fire it back up again. We'll just double check that all those customizations have applied, and then we will run sysprep. Okay, so we're doing a new snapshot. You can see that I've done some other snapshots down here just while I've been doing some testing, but we'll do this as final with customizations. That's customized with an S, not a Z. We will start the machine up again. Okay, so machine's booted up again. We can see quite clearly that we have the log-on screen customization working there. It's all looking good, and as I say, that image is much larger than that, but because it's all centered, it all shows up nicely. Let's type the password correctly, maybe. There we go. And again, we have the desktop customization. I had deleted everything from here, but Chrome seems to have reappeared. Not quite sure why. But we have also got the taskbar customizations. They have appeared. And the start menu will be customized, but we would kind of expect that because I customized it as this user, we would still expect that to be correct. But we can tell that the template has been applied because the taskbar has updated itself. So the pinned items that were there are no longer there, and the pinned items that we wanted are. So all-round winner. Okay, I'm just going to wait for Teams to start before running sysprep, because I know Teams is going to start in a second. I'll wait for that to start, I'll close it, and then we'll run the sysprep command. And we're nearly there. Here it comes. Okay, that's out of the way. So we are going to Windows key and R for run, and we're going :/Windows /system32 /sysprep, and then it's sysprep.exe. I tend to run it like that. You could go through File Explorer and go and find it, but I know where it is, so I'll do it that way around. Just very quickly explain, very brief explanation. So, system cleanup action we want to enter system OOBE, out of box experience. Now, the other option is audit mode. I'm not getting into what audit mode is for or what it does. We want OOBE. We want to generalize. That's because we are going to be deploying this to different types of hardware, and generalize gets the system ready for redeployment to different hardware types. Shutdown options. Reboot is just about the worst option. I don't know why that's the default. Quit would be fine, or shutdown would be fine. What you don't want is you don't want to generalize this machine and then have it reboot on you and then start up and then start running mini setup. Because at that point your image that you're going to capture is going to be trash. So you either want it to quit, or the option that I tend to go for is shut down. Because as soon as this is shut down, we need to snapshot it again just to be on the safe side, and then we need to use Clonezilla to capture the image. And you want to do that before it's started up again. So as soon as sysprep's run, you want to capture that image. So yeah, so OOBE, generalize, shut down. Okay. Now, if things went wrong with the Apex cleanup stuff, you'll get an error that pops up before you get to this screen. So as long as you get this popping up, that means that it's done all the prerequisite checks, everything has worked, and it's actually running through sysprep. I guess it could still go wrong at this point, but my experience is normally if it gets to this point, it's going to run through okay. So yeah, we'll leave that for a minute. It's going to shut down when it's finished. We'll snap it, and then we will yeah, run Clonezilla. Sorry, I'd completely forgotten what that program was called for a minute there. Now, I will just disclose, the virtual machine that we are currently running in is a different virtual machine to the one when I started the video. This is a little bit sort of in the weeds for xcp-ng. What I found was, when you create a virtual machine in xcp-ng, and actually I'll just switch across over here and I'll just show you this. So you go to New and VM. You select the pool that you'd like the VM to be part of, and then the first thing that you have to do at the top here is select a template. And in templates you'll see lots of Nix, Linux-based options here. We've got Cent, we've got Citrix, we've got Debian, we've got Oracle, we've got Red Hat, we've got SUSE, Scientific Linux, Ubuntu. We then get to all the Windows options. Windows 10 32, Windows 10 64, 7, 8, various server options. So when I started doing a Windows 10 setup, I selected the Windows 10 template, I gave it some RAM and processors, selected the ISO, all of that. Everything worked fine, installed Windows 10, ran through, sysprepped, tried to boot the machine with Clonezilla, and Clonezilla couldn't see any of the hard drives. So I thought, peculiar. So I booted it with the Ubuntu Live CD. Couldn't see them. I booted it with a couple of other things, Gparted Live CD. I haven't got to the bottom of what's wrong. I have posted up on the forums, I've done a load of Googling, I can't really find it. But it would appear that when you select the Windows, any of the Windows-based, and I have checked this with the other Windows templates, if you select the Windows-based templates, xcp-ng or Zen Server or something uses a hardware compatibility type that doesn't work with the Linux Live CDs. As I say, haven't got to the bottom of that yet, still working on it. So what I actually did was I created a new virtual machine using one of the Linux variants. I forget which one I use now, but one of the Linux variants. Set the vCPUs, set the RAM, booted the machine. I then went to my original Windows 10 build, which is still here, went to disks, and I detached the disk from here. I went to the new one that I've made, and I used the attach disk option, and I attached it here, and then booted, and it's been absolutely fine. And in this mode, it does, Clonezilla does see the disks, so we can do the next step. So yeah, still don't know why, but that was a problem. Okay, so that's shutting down still, and it's just finished. Perfect. So what we're now going to do is we're going to go to snapshots, new snapshot. Now really we shouldn't need this snapshot because we're going to take an image immediately, but I just prefer to take one just in case. So let's call this final shutdown after sysprep. And we're going to go to disks. We're going to select the Clonezilla ISO on the CD drive. We're going to check the boot order, network, DVD, hard drive, so it's going to pick the DVD drive before the hard drive. That's fine. Now we also need to attach another disk, but what I just want to show you is if you forget to do it at this point, you can do it later. So I'm actually going to do it later just to show that that does actually work. So what we'll do now is we will start the machine. I'm going to switch back over to this view, and we're going to boot Clonezilla, hopefully. Yes, we are. Okay, so top option tends to work for most machines. If you're struggling with it, then maybe go and select one of the other modes that's more compatible, but generally this does just work. He says, you know, assuming it can see your hard drives. Okay, choose language. I like English. Choose keyboard layout. Technically I want the GB layout, but actually the difference between GB and US is not a lot, so I'll leave it at the US one. Start Clonezilla. Okay, so we've got a few options here. We are working with disks or partitions using images. That's the option that we want. I'm not going into what all the other options are. That's just for what we're doing now. We are using a local device, so we are imaging from a local device to a local device. So that's the important thing here, is where your image is either coming from or going to. So it's going to be a local device. It then says, right, it's going to detect what disks are available. Okay, so you can see there that the disks that are available, it's seeing XVDA, which is the 80, but it's showing up as 85.9. 80 gig disk, that's the one that we've installed Windows on. At this point I'm going, oh no, I've forgotten to attach the destination for the images. Not to fear. We're going to go back here, we're going to say attach disk. So we have this disk here, which I've called Clonezilla, which is a 400 gig disk that I want to dump the images to. We're going to hit attach. Added it, it's disconnected, give it a few seconds. It's now connected, it's given it a device. If we switch back to this view, and you can see that the disk has now appeared. So xvdb is the one that we want. So Control-C to exit this window, as it says on the screen. Select the partition that you want. So we want xvdb1, so that's the actual partition that we're using. Tab and space. Where do you want it? I want it in the root. So you can see that at the moment there's the lost and found folder, so that's one of the default Linux folders if you're not familiar with that. win10 1909 image test 1, so that's a test that I conducted a few days ago. So we want it in this folder, so what you do is you just go to done, not browse, and hit space. It asks you whether you're sure, enter to continue. What mode do we want? So beginner works absolutely fine. And what are we trying to do? We are trying to save a disk. So we can save disk, we can save partitions, we can restore. What we're doing at the moment is we want to save the entire disk. Where do you want it to go? I want it to go to win10 1909 image 01. And I'll put generic on the end just for me later. That's so that I know that this isn't one that's been customized specifically to a customer. This is just a generic Windows 10 build. Space to select the button. Which disk do you want? Now, because there's only 2 disks in the machine and we've already selected one of them as the image destination, it's only going to list the other disks that are available in the machine, so there's only one there. OK. Do we want to check file systems beforehand? We do not. Do we want to check the saved image file? Yes, we absolutely do want to check the saved image file. Last thing we want to do is dump the image, think it's okay, come back later and find that it's not good. Do we want to encrypt the image? Questionable whether you want to do this or not. I never do. There's nothing in that image that's proprietary at this point, and it's sitting on a server that is encrypted and that is physically secure, so I'm not too concerned about that. What do you want to do when it's finished? Again, I'm going to leave that as choose, just so that we can see that it's actually done something and show us the error messages if there are any. Okay, it now gives you the command. So if you wanted to, you can just boot Clonezilla, go to the console, and you could copy and paste that command in or type that command in. I don't find it particularly difficult just going through the menu to do it, so I always just go through the menu. Enter to continue. To finding all the partitions. Are you sure you want to continue? If you've got this far and you're not sure, then who knows what's going on. Okay, and it's off. It's going to take a few minutes. I'm going to go check on my kids, make sure they haven't murdered each other, and be back in a few minutes. Okay, so Clonezilla's finished doing its thing. It's been through, it's created the image, it's checked the image, everything's looking happy. So yeah, so we're basically enter to continue. It's finished. What do we want to do? So at this point, if you wanted to do something else, I'm not sure what else you might want to do, but you could. For example, if you say if you wanted to copy it to a local storage, but then also copy it to network storage as well, or something like that, then you could rerun, starting with different states. So you could remount the local storage, you could unmount it. Lots of different options there. What we want to do is power off. Okay. So we switch back over here. Last thing I'm just going to do before stopping is we're going to forget the Clonezilla image disk, not remove. Forget removes it from this machine, but does not delete it. And we'll eject the Clonezilla medium as well. Now, I'm going to finish this video here. I will probably do another one just doing a a restore of this image to another virtual machine, but I'll do that as a completely separate video. This one's going to be long enough as it is without adding a restore into it as well. As I've said, if you have, I should probably go back to that view. If you've got any comments or suggestions, please put them in the comments below this video. Any ideas, any improvements, any suggestions? Try and keep criticism constructive rather than just saying rude, horrible, nasty things. The internet can be a bit of a vile place sometimes, so let's try and keep things polite. I will see you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching.